Welcome back to another episode of the Engage podcast. Today we're going to sit down with Mark from Contract Administration to talk about Deadhead Seating. We're your hosts. I'm Laura Woods.
I'm Gabbie Jordan.
Welcome to the show, Mark, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, I'm going to need you to do one thing for me real quick.
Oh.
Can you pronounce your last name?
Hinczynski.
That's so easy. I'm going to need to buy a vowel if I need to write it out. All right.
I could use one.
I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to butcher it.
So we've done a podcast about Deadhead Seating. If you guys need a refresher, it was back 2 years ago. TA episode 6, Deadhead, published, I think, about February of 2023. And it talked about what was going to be coming up in our contract 2019 and how that was going to be implemented. But we move 2 years down the road and everything has been implemented. So, Mark, how is Deadhead Seating going with our pilots?
Some of it has gone well, but it has not been without having to file a couple of implementation grievances.
How's the automation going?
The automation is working the way that it's supposed to be working, and we're seeing very few violations.
So that seems like a far cry from a lot of complaints I see about X'd out seats and not being able to select a seat and not being properly listed on the upgrade list for Comfort Plus. So can you elaborate a little bit on why we're seeing so much feedback from pilots on not being able to choose your seat and not being upgraded appropriately?
Yeah, sure. So we do have an MEC grievance that we filed regarding the seat blocking. We don't agree with the company's blocking of family seats, aircraft variant seats, and we'll proceed with the arbitration as needed. But as far as the upgrading, there's just a general misunderstanding of how the process works and what pilots are eligible for. And oftentimes when pilots approach us with their alleged dispute, we're able to evaluate and find that there was just a misunderstanding of what they were supposed to have versus what they received.
Since there is a little bit of misunderstanding between what we're supposed to get and what people actually get, let's review it really fast. The easiest one, if it's transoceanic, you're getting a Delta 1 seat, correct?
Any transoceanic deadhead will be a Delta 1 seat. It's one of the few exceptions we have to the fly now, grieve later. If you are flying deadhead, transoceanic, you do not have to get on the airplane unless you have a Delta 1 seat.
Okay, so just to make this clear, if I'm supposed to be on a transoceanic deadhead and I don't have a Delta 1 seat, I am done. I don't have to get on that airplane.
If you have a transoceanic deadhead that is not in a Delta 1 seat, you may walk away.
Okay, that's amazing, and everyone should keep it in mind. But other than that, we also have anything that's a red eye and anything that is more than 3 hours and it precedes a flying segment, that should also get us first class or the highest class of service on board that aircraft, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So one of the misunderstandings people have is that they think that it's just a flight that's over 3 hours, and you've got to make sure that you have that working segment after the 3 hours to be eligible for the first class upgrade with the super upgrade before all the other passengers, non-revs, and et cetera.
I just want to reiterate that it may be a first class, but technically in the PWA, it says highest class of service. And that may mean something different if you're deadheading on a 321 versus maybe deadheading domestically on a 330. How does that look?
That's correct. It should be the highest class of service that you're eligible.
Okay, so that could be Delta 1. If it's on a 330, it could be Delta 1. It could be Delta Premium Select, Comfort Plus, and then we go all the way down to a regular seat.
And that is correct.
A few trips ago, I had a day that started with a deadhead from Spokane to Atlanta, and then we operated Atlanta to Dulles. And that Spokane to Atlanta flight had the first class upgrade, which was nice. But the reason that we were in first class in the first place was because then we were operating that flight up to Dulles afterwards.
Exactly. That flight met both criteria. The deadhead was greater than 3 hours, and you had an operating segment after that. Had you terminated in Atlanta, gone to a layover, you would not have been eligible for the first class upgrade.
Oh, I see. And so then that would have just followed the rest of the Comfort Plus upgrade list that is there in
that is correct.
The contract. All right.
All right. So if you don't fall in those two buckets, you're not crossing an ocean and you don't have a 3-hour flight that has a working leg after that. Then we go into another bucket. That doesn't give you first class, but it will give you Comfort Plus, right?
Yeah, so all pilots should be eligible for Comfort Plus for their main cabin coach reservations. But they do have to make sure that when they check in for their flight that they use delta.com and not the Delta app, and that when they do the check-in that they select that they want the option to upgrade to Comfort Plus. If they use the app, they will not be on the list and coded correctly for the upgrade to Comfort Plus.
Okay, so if I go on delta.com, I put my PNR in and I check in for my flight on delta.com, not on the app, I can check the box and I should be number 1 on the upgrade list if there aren't any Comfort Plus seats available at that time.
If there weren't Comfort Plus seats available when the rotation was created and the PNR alongside with it, then the automation will continue to try and upgrade you every 15 minutes until you do the check-in. Once you check in, then the system is going to put you at the top of the list as long as you check that box.
Are you seeing that most of the time everyone is properly getting on that Comfort Plus upgrade list? They're number 1 above everybody else?
As long as the pilot has gone to delta.com, checked in, and checked the box, we have not had any issues of pilots not correctly coded on the upgrade list.
Okay, but in a perfect world, these rotations are made, and at the time that they're made, that PNR is created. If there's Comfort Plus seats available, you get a Comfort Plus seat, right?
As long as the seat's available for sale, yeah, that's your seat.
We have heard reports of some pilots not having Comfort Plus seats available whenever the rotation is created, and it seems pretty inconceivable that there might not be a Comfort Plus seat available when that rotation is created 6 weeks out. Can you tell us a little bit about Comfort Plus availability?
Comfort Plus is one of Delta's most popular products, and we see it sell out pretty fast. So it's actually not terribly crazy that 6 weeks out, that product is sold out on a particular flight.
Gabbie mentioned it before, but can you talk to me a little bit more about Xed seats?
So on the seat map, sometimes there are seats that are blocked because they're seats that are sold but not necessarily assigned. We see this a lot as HKs, but especially if you're a commuter, you see these on these lists sometimes. Somebody has bought a particular class, they're just waiting for their seat assignment.
And I think sometimes that does happen when you'll go on to DeltaNet or TravelNet and you'll look and you'll see, oh my God, there are these seats available. But actually it's that they just haven't been assigned. And yeah, you want to be able to select one. But if everybody has already booked up a Comfort Plus seat, they just haven't been assigned that one, then it's going to be unavailable for you to select it.
And that's correct.
So if we do like a scenario-based question right now, and you and your captain or FO, you are flying, and you're about to deadhead, and one of you doesn't have your Comfort Plus upgrade, but you really believe that you should be upgraded. Let's just throw captains under the bus here. So let's just say captain takes his iPad up to the gate agent and is going to read word for word from the contract where it says that we are eligible for Comfort Plus. What should you do?
One, you should not do that at all.
Okay.
You should never take your iPad and show the contract to the gate agent. The gate agent is not the expert on our PWA. They are instructed to strictly follow the upgrade list. And as long as the pilot has checked in correctly, and in the case of the Comfort Plus particularly, if you used the delta.com and selected the box, the coding will be correct. If they still think it's incorrect, we encourage them to call Pilot Assist. But approaching the gate agent is not a proper way to find resolution here.
This is a little more of a fly now, grieve later type of
Absolutely.
thing.
So
Yeah.
if you're doing, we talked about earlier, if you're going transoceanic and you're eligible for the Delta one, that's actually listed in our scheduling reference handbook as an exception to the fly now, grieve later. However, if you're doing anything outside of the transoceanic, it is definitely a fly now, grieve later. Make sure you're getting on that airplane and we'll work it out later.
So let's talk about boarding for a second. When I'm on a deadhead in this new contract, I'm supposed to be able to board whenever. Does that mean I can board with first class?
You can board with first class. You can board when they're doing the special passengers in the early part of boarding. As soon as there's a boarding pass that's scanned and boarding has commenced, a deadheading pilot in or out of uniform is allowed to board the aircraft.
So all three of us in the room are commuters, and we often will deviate a deadhead. Can you tell me what still applies when we deviate deadhead?
As soon as the pilot deviates their deadhead, they are no longer eligible for the automation, the upgrades, and all of the other privileges that come with the PWA.
All right, how about when I'm going to training? Do I still fall under the PWA rules?
If you're going to training or anywhere else that's on company business travel, you don't follow under the PWA, you follow under company travel rules.
So it sounds like there's a pretty significant difference between company travel and Deadhead travel?
It reinforces how important the PWI is, that all the other employees that work at Delta's 100,000 employees here, they all fall under the company business. But when it comes to a Deadhead, those pilots have those protections for the better seats, but with priority.
For all of our pilots who might need a little refresher, when we're deviating a Deadhead, do we book that through company business or does it have to be done through iCrew?
There's only one way to do this, and that is through iCrew. When you are deviating front end or back end, make sure that you make that reservation through iCrew. It is not appropriate to be doing that through company business.
Noted.
And when you're deviating a Deadhead, always remember, call crew scheduling, go through the phone tree of all the options, make sure that you are deviating Deadhead, that's on your schedule, and that the company knows that you're deviating your Deadhead.
Yeah, the pilot has an obligation to get released from the rotation. It's an automated system through the VRU. It's a really easy process. If you find that you do have problems, we recommend calling Pilot Assist, but it's essential that you do get released from or report being released from the rotation. It would be a real shame if you didn't do it, and on the other end of where they were expecting you to be, they had a DOT drug test for you and you end up no-showing it. But if you properly go through the VRU system or go through Pilot Assist, your schedule will be updated so you won't find yourself in that situation.
I've had it a few times where I try to call the VRU to get released from my rotation on the back end Deadhead, and it's just not processing for whatever reason. It tries to forward me to crew scheduling or something, but I have literally been boarding for that Deadhead deviation home. In those cases, I've generally just sent a message via the Crew Assist app, and I've just said, hey, can you help me out? Can you tell crew tracking to reflect my schedule? And it's never been a problem. They normally can do it there within a few minutes, but I think really in any way, do whatever you can to leave a paper trail, right?
Yeah, Crew Assist is really accommodating. I prefer when you can have some voice confirmation, but when you're certainly in a stressful situation and the alternative is getting off the airplane because you couldn't get someone, shoot that Crew Assist message.
Yeah, and take a screenshot of it.
That's really interesting that you say DOT, because anytime I deviate a Deadhead, my biggest worry is that I'm going to get rerouted. And to be honest, the DOT drug testing never really crossed my mind.
Yeah, me either. But now we know.
One of the reasons that people used to not make the phone call is because they didn't want their per diem to stop. Now we've renegotiated that so that the per diem is reflected to the original release time.
Mark, we often hear about pilots not happy with a Deadhead seat on a last-minute rotation. Why are they getting the scrappy seats?
So PNRs are married to their rotations. Anytime the bid package rotation has to be broken up into a new original rotation, a new PNR is created. So whatever seats were available for sale at the new creations is what's going to dictate the seat that you get.
So let's just say if I am a captain flying a broken trip and my FO's flying the whole original trip, there's a chance that my FO can be eating dinner in first class. And
Absolutely.
I am in Rove because I picked it up last minute and somebody else swooped in and bought that first class seat when it became available.
The one PNR would have been made much, much earlier than the newer rotation.
I see. All right.
All right, so if you're picking up a green slip, just keep in mind that rotation is very likely to have only been made same day, maybe the day before. And if first class isn't available, then it continues down the list. You might be in Comfort Plus. You might be in 32B. Who knows? But keep that in mind, especially as you are getting big mad and wanting your Comfort Plus or
and
your
wanting
aisle.
to go show the contract to the gate agent.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep all these things in mind as you might be having some feelings about where you're sitting on this airplane, because it actually may very well be compliant with what is in our PWA.
I sure hope it's compliant, not maybe.
Okay.
And if you have any questions about whether something is compliant or not, don't hesitate to send in a DART to CA. They get those. They investigate them. If you really think that something is happening that is not compliant, send that DART in.
We really encourage you to send the DART as soon as possible with the screenshots, because early on there's some information that we can get, but when we get a day away from the incident, then we have to wait for the systems to load the information, and it delays our ability to investigate.
Like that Deadhead I was complaining to you about that I had 3 years ago. Do you think you're going to be able to track that down?
Yeah, that might be problematic.
Darn.
All right.
Final thought, real quick. One more little exception that's probably going to apply to 4 pilots who are not even listening to this podcast. Offline Deadheads. We pick up so many airplanes from various places where we don't service.
Yeah. So the contract still applies to offline flying. So if you're going for a flight that's greater than 3 hours and you're operating a segment back in that same flight duty period, if a first class seat's available on that offline carrier, Delta should be buying that ticket for you. Now, keep in mind, Delta's systems are unique to themselves, and we don't have access to the other foreign carriers or partner carriers. So we don't have the ability to enforce the automatic upgrade. But certainly if the seat you're eligible for at the time of purchase, you should be getting it.
Let's say I don't get my equivalent to Comfort Plus, and we're heading down to Mexico, we're picking up an airplane, we're flying it back. Can I just upgrade myself, pay for it, and then concur it?
No, you cannot.
That is good to know. So that might save some hurt feelings reports if someone were to do that and then try and concur it. So the company will not pay for you to self-upgrade yourself on an offline Deadhead.
And a lot of these rotations are last-minute creations. We encourage at the rotation creation that maybe you go on the partner's airline's website and see what seats are available. It may be different than what's available on the day of the flight.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. This has all been great information.
Quick takeaways, check in on delta.com.
Check the box.
Don't talk to the gate agent. It's not their problem.
All right. That wraps up this episode of the Engage Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and fly safe.